That techno music is slightly unnerving, perhaps not really suited to the subject of budget repair or indeed trade and investment. I want to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respect to elders past and present, and offer my respects to all other First Nations people here today. I want to acknowledge the presence of Prime Minister Marape and a very significant team of senior ministers from the Marape government, and thank you for your attendance this afternoon, and Prime Minister, your contribution this morning. Also understand that you've had a very busy day, that your address to the Lowy Foundation was very well received, so thank you for the contribution that you've made over the course of the last couple of days in Australia, and the partnership with you and your government is very valuable indeed to the Australian government. It's terrific to have an opportunity to speak alongside the Treasurer, the Honourable Ian Ling-Stuckey, as well as Cameron and Kishti. I want to congratulate you, Treasurer. It's always hard making budget papers exciting. I want to congratulate you not just on that last contribution, but also on presenting the largest budget in Papua New Guinea's history late last month. It is a substantial fiscal achievement. It's another sign of Papua New Guinea's continued growth and success. As close neighbours, your success feeds our success, and vice versa. In fact, of course, until 8,000 years ago, it was possible to walk from Cape York to Papua New Guinea, and the family and other relationships between those parts of Australia and Papua New Guinea are still very deep. And although people haven't walked between our two lands in many years, we continue to walk together. Our bilateral relationship is defined by deepening connections across all aspects of society, from the social through to the economic. And this is why Australia is committed to working with Papua New Guinea to pursue its economic reforms and to build a stronger and more resilient economy. Our commitment is long-standing, it is long-term, and it's unwavering. Last Thursday, our Prime Ministers met and signed a bilateral security agreement between Australia and Papua New Guinea. This historic agreement is a legally binding framework for deepening our security cooperation. It elevates, broadens and modernises our long-standing security relationship. It covers both traditional and non-traditional security issues like climate change, cybersecurity, gender-based violence and protecting critical infrastructure. It serves as a framework for Papua New Guinea and Australia to work closely together on Papua New Guinea's internal security needs. Prime Minister Albanese also said that he is looking forward to Prime Minister Marape visiting Australia again in February as a guest of the Australian government, and I'm delighted to learn that Prime Minister Marape has confirmed that he will address a joint sitting of the Australian Parliament during that visit, becoming the first leader from Papua New Guinea and only the second leader from the Pacific, alongside New Zealand, to do so. We are delighted to return that favour, Prime Minister, and I'm very much looking forward to what is going to be a very important event in the Australian parliamentary calendar. In terms of trade between our two countries, it remains an important pillar of our relationship. I attended the Australia PNG Business Forum and Trade Expo in Port Moresby earlier this year, and I saw firsthand the depth and breadth of our commercial ties. I'm very proud that more than 4,000 Australian companies export to Papua New Guinea, and that Australia is Papua New Guinea's top trading partner. And that was evidenced by not just the number of people who attended that forum, but also by the diversity of joint commercial activities that we're engaged in. There is an opportunity to do much more in both nations' interests and in line with each government's aspirations for future economic activity. Right now, under our comprehensive strategic and economic partnership, Australia and PNG officials are working to finalise a joint feasibility study looking at options for new future trade arrangements between our two countries. The study explores current barriers to trade and investment, including the biosecurity standards that Australia applies to agricultural imports from all countries. It also canvasses options to facilitate growing exports of PNG products to Australian markets, boosting investment and supporting the logistical and transportation barriers within Papua New Guinea. And while the opportunities for trade are broad and for investment, the structural challenges facing Australia and our region are significant. The environmental and economic impact of climate change on Australia, on Papua New Guinea and on our region creates an urgent imperative to decarbonise in the most efficient, low-cost way possible. Forging our region's future requires a huge investment from all of us. The third pillar of Australia and Papua New Guinea's comprehensive strategic and economic partnership is economic partnership for prosperity. And among other things, this pillar acknowledges the importance of stable investment regimes for the development and prosperity of our peoples. Many Australian companies invest in PNG, many in the resources sector. However, it is likely that we will see Australian aggregate investment in Papua New Guinea fall as a result of Newmont Corporation's takeover of Australian gold mining firm Newcrest. That takeover will see a large part of Australia's investment in PNG's resources sector transferred to American ownership. This shows us that aggregate investment figures can be fickle, particularly in an economy where single large projects like that one play such a dominant role. But I want to make 2 points here. First, commercial investments like that investment are critical to Papua New Guinea's development. Our government should keep working together to encourage private investment in commercial activity in agriculture, in secondary processing and manufacturing, in mining and resources, in finance and the digital economy. And that does mean improving the investment climate, including regulatory certainty and governance, attending to investment facilitation in potential future trade instruments, and encouraging the Australian investment community to take a closer look at and a closer direct interest in the enormous potential of the PNG economy. So what I say to you is, secondly, beyond its commercial dimension, investment is about what our two governments do together in the interests of our two countries and the enormous opportunities that creates for private sector investment. Together we need to build growth and attract capital in such a way that builds an interdependent and resilient region. Investment is not just about the commercial arrangements between companies and countries. It must be commercial, but in terms of the investment gap, whether it's in climate resilience, in energy infrastructure, in a whole range of these areas, the investment gap is enormous and is what the government does here in a purposeful way to crowd in private sector investment that matters. Infrastructure, energy projects, agriculture, digital infrastructure, climate adaptation all work together to lift living standards, improve productivity and crowd in private investment. The Australian government is committed to deepening our partnership, listening and understanding to your priorities and your needs. Good projects that build Papua New Guinea, that strengthen communities and the economy and build economic resilience will continue to be our shared focus. But this, of course, is not easy. If it was easy, it would have all been done. At a time when fossil fuels are being phased out across the globe, Papua New Guinea, like Australia, is building its industrial capability and, as a corollary, our capacity to supply low-cost, reliable electricity to the population and transition its economy toward value-added products. Australia currently has $100 million of agreed energy investments in Papua New Guinea via the Australian Infrastructure Financing Facility, with a further $200 million planned, and approximately another $100 million planned or underway as part of our bilateral development program. In practice, this means solar farms in Aitape and Arawa are close to completion and will be launched next year, providing cheaper, more reliable power in locations that have experienced unreliable or no supply for long periods of time. Solar farms in Kimbe, Buka, Karama and Maprik are all planned for completion over the next 2 years. Critical improvements to the Ramu and Port Moresby electricity grids and the Daru electricity grid in Western Province have been completed, and more work is underway to improve electricity reliability for households and business. And we're also increasing the output and reliability of hydropower through upgrades to the Ramu grid and the Rona hydropower station. Another part of Australia's commitment to energy investment is the more than $250 million dedicated to reliable energy supply through the PNG Electrification Partnership. Alongside Japan and the United States, our nations will work together to provide clean energy to rural and remote PNG and to support PNG's ambitions to electrify 70% of the nation by 2030. Our off-grid grants program, PowerM Community, has helped install almost 20,000 solar systems, including 6,000 systems along the Kokoda track and 5,000 systems in West New Britain. These are not grants for big business. They are investments in the 80% of New Guineans who live in remote towns and communities with limited access to a reliable supply of electricity. What's more, PNG's contribution to the international transition to renewable energy will extend well beyond its own borders. From building new methods of electricity generation to improving energy storage, we cannot overlook the role that PNG's critical mineral sector will play. Nor can we overlook the potential PNG has to process and add value to these raw materials, creating good local jobs in the process. Papua New Guinea is at the forefront of traditional commodities like copper across the Pacific. This copper supply will be essential to the significant scale-up of global production of solar, hydro, thermal and wind energy, as well as batteries. The PNG's economic future and its ability to produce value-added goods for the global market will also be defined by the development of climate-resilient infrastructure. The Pacific Quality Infrastructure principles are that all infrastructure investments provide local jobs and training opportunities, that investments deliver value for money, not just for investors, but for Pacific countries and communities, that investments put climate resilience at the centre, that they provide for responsible and transparent financing, and that investments promote inclusivity. It's in our shared interest to support infrastructure investments that benefit local people, financed in ways that develop domestic capability and build an interdependent region. And Prime Minister, our partnership over those questions is absolutely vital, and that work will continue through the vehicles that Australia has established in that area, but also in our direct engagement with you and your government. I want to end my remarks today by recalling that earlier this year, Prime Minister Albanese was in Port Moresby. It marked the first visit by an Australian Prime Minister since 2019, and when he addressed the National Parliament, he became, in what he regards as a singular honour, the first foreign head of government to do so. In his address, he said that Australia and Papua New Guinea are bound not just by a shared past and a shared border, but by a common determination to shape our own futures. Having independent futures does not mean that we must build them alone. In fact, it means that we must support one another and work together to craft a region which is in our common interest. We share a very special relationship. We are partners and we are equals. We share a future, and together we're building a partnership that will deliver peace, prosperity and opportunity for all of our people and for all of our region. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon.